We have very seasoned researchers, people who have seen it all and done it all in the area of education and research. In fact, I am not going to attempt to introduce the people, the facilitators for today, because if I do, we may spend the whole day trying to tell you who they are. But of course, they are people who you all know. They are household names when it comes to education in Ghana and UW in particular. So I just want to go straight to welcome Director, who is Professor Jophus Anamuah-Mensah, the man who has the university at heart and has pushed for this program to help graduate students in the university and beyond, and also supervisors. So Professor Jophus Anamuah-Mensah is the director of IERIS. He's a former vice chancellor of the university. And as I said earlier, the name is a household name. So I don't want to bore you with his book of resume just for us to know him. We already know him. But he'll be doing this with Professor George Kankam, who is currently the Dean of the School of Graduate Studies. So these people have seen it all, and Professor Kankam is the one who is supervising and overseeing research in the university, especially graduate work. So they will share with us what is expected of us as supervisors. And the students who are here will get to know what supervisors expect of them. In fact, focusing alone on the students alone may not necessarily solve the problem that we have. And that is why we thought it's wise to include supervisors, people who are interested in supervising, and then the supervisees, so that they will also know what their supervisors expect of them. So without much ado, because it's already past 9, I'd want to welcome Professor Anamuah-Mensah to welcome participants officially so that we can start today's presentation. So Prof, thank you and welcome.
Thank you very much. As you've already said, this is the last in the series. And I want to thank all the students who have participated fully throughout all this, these sessions. You've encountered a number of people who have come, experienced people who have come, and so on. And my belief is that at least you've learned something from this to shape your thesis and candidacy as a PhD student or whatever. But in the end, we hope to see a much improvement in whatever we do in terms of graduate thesis writing and supervision. So well, thank you so much for coming to join us for this last session. And I believe that some questionnaire was sent to you, and I hope you all respond to the questionnaire so that we can then look at what next we can provide for you to satisfy your needs. So thank you very much. Professor Kankam is going to lead in this, and I'll be supporting him in that regard. So just feel free, and as you go along, as usual, just send your questions and so on, write them down, and then send them through the chat, and then we'll discuss that, as we go along. Thank you very much. I wish you, the best.
Thank you so much. And I'm excited to be part of this wonderful and great exercise. And more importantly, to do this presentation with the support of our father and our everything, Prof. Anamuah-Mensah. Prof, we are grateful to you. What I intend doing today is to go to thesis supervision. And like Dr. Tamanja did say, I will want it to be as interactive as possible and to relate this thing more to our personal experiences when we were also doing I was doing my PhD and the numerous students I have supervised. The presentation will take this form. We'll look at the introduction, definition of supervision, students and supervisees' perception of thesis writing. Then we move down to eligibility to supervise at UEW, joint responsibilities of the supervisor and students, roles and functions of the supervisor, roles and responsibilities of the supervisee, factors to success in thesis and dissertation writing, dispute resolution, and finally conclusion. Let me start by saying that although the concept of supervision has been defined variously with certain commonalities, for this session, I will attempt to define supervision about thesis from more of teaching as teaching and guidance perspective. And I see supervision as teaching and guidance for these reasons. When we talk of guidance, it's assistance given to any individual to understand the aggregate of his environment so that he or she can make intelligent choices. Teaching precisely is an intentional interaction between a more senior member and learners with a view to induce learning at the end of the interaction. So within this guidance and teaching, supervision takes the form of I see supervision as taking the form of teaching and guidance. And within that perspective, we have coaching and mentorship. So I have defined supervision in this presentation as an accountable two-way process which supports, assures, and motivates the supervisee to develop knowledge, skills, and values in conducting and writing thesis or dissertation. Supervising research at high degree, for me, is the most advanced level of teaching. It is certainly one of the most complex and problematic process, and if not well managed, will lead to very high dropout rate of students. Yes. At times, the students look so confused and they need to be supported. Otherwise, if it's not well managed, it will lead to high dropout rate. Supervision demands a very close and professional relationship or rapport between the supervisor and the supervisee. And it is important that the supervisor as well as the supervisee share ideas and experiences and get some discussions of principles. And this point reminds me of when I was doing my PhD. When you are supervising a student, at least at the higher degree, there should be a close rapport. The supervisor becomes your father, your mother, your confidant, and everything, because the supervisor identifies himself with the thesis writing. The supervisor even needs to have some personal information about the supervisee so as to help the supervisee get financial support. There could be situations where the supervisee might not be well. It's the duty of the supervisor to educate the supervisee to know where to go for medical treatment and where to go to even have student support services in terms of finance and everything. So when it comes to supervising students, it should be a very close rapport that is built on professionalism. When it comes to thesis writing, I'm saying this like I did say, I want us to approach all these things from the way we see students and the way we have supervised students. Supervisees have a mistake about thesis, especially the PhD thesis. And this can be damaging. Supervisees or students see thesis as a flawless piece of research. And most supervisors also don't see supervision as teaching. I have said that in this session, I will emphasize the idea of supervision as being teaching and guidance, and which entails mentorship or mentoring and coaching. And I'm saying that there's a mystic about students' perception about what a thesis is. More importantly, at the PhD level, they see it as a flawless piece of research. And surprisingly, supervisors also do not see it as teaching. There is therefore the need for some degree of demythologizing or demystifying this perception from both ends. And I mean from the end of the supervisees and from the end of supervisors. The thesis, especially the PhD, is not meant to be flawless and definitive. It's never meant to be flawless and definitive. It, however, needs emphasizing that the PhD or the thesis writing demands a tremendous commitment of time, energy, and emotion, and has to be seen as a form of teaching. And I'm emphasizing teaching. You know, supervisees often feel isolated, and at times, and see the exercise as a completely individual effort and a lonely testing time, which, if not well managed, can lead to health problems. Yes, a lot of people, a lot of supervisees have ended up having health problems, especially at the PhD level. And the supervisors needs to provide guidance as a sounding board of ideas and a fountain of suggestions for wide reading, from defining the topic, selecting the appropriate design, gathering material, writing up, from first draft to final submission and selection. The supervisor needs to give guidance in all these sessions. Having said this, I will try to zero down to what pertains at UEW, University of Education. How is supervision done? What are the guiding rules and regulations that focus on supervision as to who qualifies to supervise? What should be the responsibility of the supervisor and the supervisee? Eligibility supervise at UEW. Regulation 16, and that is what is stated, and all these are in the School of Graduate Studies Handbook. Regulation 16(1). No lecturer shall supervise a postgraduate thesis or dissertation or project unless they themselves have successfully undergone supervised postgraduate research training at the same or higher level than the one being pursued by the students they are to supervise. So you can only supervise when you yourself have gone through that training. 2, subject to Regulation 16(1) above, the following shall be eligible to supervise a postgraduate thesis or dissertation at UEW. A, lecturers who have a minimum of 3 years postdoctoral research and teaching experience at the university level. For teaching and supervision of a PhD thesis, the lecturer or supervisor shall be a PhD holder and must be of the rank of senior lecturer or above. Also, for teaching and supervision of master's research thesis, the lecturer or supervisor shall be a PhD holder or a senior lecturer or above in rank. B, research fellows with doctorate degrees who are associate lecturers or teach courses and who have a minimum of 3 years postdoctoral research experience at the university level are also qualified to supervise. For the PhD supervision, they shall be of the rank of senior research fellow and above, and shall supervise the student jointly with a member of the teaching staff. 3. Notwithstanding the provision of Regulation 16(1)(2) above, that is what we have discussed, a person of professorial rank without a doctorate degree shall be eligible to supervise a PhD thesis. 4. In exceptional circumstances, other categories of staff may be approved by the School of Graduate Studies Board to participate in specialized postgraduate programs. And take note, at times there could be situations where, because of the speciality of the discipline, we might not have the needed support. So a case could be made by the School of Graduate Board, and people who have knowledge in that subject or that specialized discipline will be allowed to supervise. Consequent upon Regulation 16(1) above, Departmental Postgraduate Committee shall shortly before the beginning of each academic session submit for the approval of the School of Graduate Board a list of members of staff qualified to teach and examine the various postgraduate courses run by the particular department. And that is the process. It appears people have the wrong notion that the supervisors are appointed by the School of Graduate Studies. Yes, the School of Graduate Studies rise to appoint the lecturers, but the list comes from the departments through the faculty. And when the list comes, what the School of Graduate Studies does is that a committee looks at the qualifications and the experiences of the supervisors who have been assigned to the supervisees. And when we are sure that their discipline experience can help the candidate write the thesis, then we write. There have been situations where the list has come from the faculty and the departments, and the School of Graduate Studies has made further follow-up and further discussions, and upon collaboration agreements have changed the supervisors. 4, where the number of teaching staff on ground in the department is inadequate, the School of Graduate Board may suspend the teaching of the relevant courses. Yes, at the postgraduate level, the policy is that before a postgraduate course is mounted, the department concerned must have qualified staff. So if the department does not have qualified staff, then it becomes difficult for the School of Graduate Studies to allow the program to run. When such things happen, at times, what we do is that we discuss this thing and then take it back to academic board, and the department starts to scout for qualified staff to assist before the programs are mounted. Regulation 17 from UW, this talks about appointment and roles of supervisors. Supervisors for research masters and doctoral degree candidates shall be appointed by the School of Graduate Board on the recommendation of the department, of the departmental and faculty postgraduate committees. The faculties have postgraduate committees there. So, and since the School of Graduate Studies coordinates the program from the departments and the faculties, the School of Graduate Board, before even supervisors are assigned, discusses the issue with the departmental faculty board before supervisors are appointed. Research supervisors for postgraduate diploma candidates shall be appointed by the faculty postgraduate committee. So when it comes to the postgraduate diploma, it is the faculty postgraduate committee, where a candidate is assigned more than one supervisor. One of them shall be designated the principal supervisor and the others the co-supervisors. Yes, in our system here, at the MPhil and PhD levels, normally we have more than one supervisor. We usually have a principal supervisor and a co-supervisor. And the idea is that we expect both the principal and the co-supervisor to work in concert with the candidate. And then when the two of them approve of the thesis and sign, then the thesis is brought to the graduate school for onward submission to the external assessor. A supervisor shall not have under his or her supervision in any one academic year more postgraduate students that are approved by the School of Graduate Board. As I did say, it is the School of Graduate Board that assigns the supervisor to the students or to the supervisees. So, and we all know that in our system here, we teach, supervise, even go down to teaching practice and the rest. So the School of Graduate Studies is careful about the number of supervisees we assign to a particular supervisor. The board, with the approval of academic board, may appoint supervisors from other universities or equivalent institutions. In such cases, at least one internal supervisor shall also be assigned to the student. Yes, this portion, if you remember, I have said it already. This applies to departments who run or that run postgraduate programs, but do not have qualified staff. When such situation arises, the School of Graduate Board makes a case and it is discussed at the academic board. And after that, the university starts to scout for qualified staff to help that particular department to run the program. The role of supervisors shall, among other things, to guide and advise the candidate as appropriate and train him or her in methods of research and in the writing of the project or dissertation. Where in exceptional cases, a student is dissatisfied with the performance of the supervisor or supervisors approved for him by the School of Graduate Board, the student shall report in writing in the first instance to the departmental postgraduate committee. If the departmental postgraduate committee is satisfied that the student's report has merit, it shall recommend another suitable supervisor through the faculty postgraduate committee for the approval of the School of Graduate Board. And where the head of department is the supervisor, the student shall report in writing to the chairman of the faculty of postgraduate committee. The School of Graduate Board may entertain petitions from students who are also dissatisfied with the decision of the departmental postgraduate committee and or the faculty postgraduate committee on their project. Yes, supervision is a relationship. And like I did say, it is a rapport that needs to be established between the supervisor and the supervisee. But as human beings, at times the situation can get sore. So if a student sees that he or she cannot cope or work with the supervisor, that student is allowed to write to the departmental postgraduate committee, and they will handle the issue at their level. If you look at this clause, you see that we have put in checks and balances. For instance, if the supervisor is the head of department, for the fact that that head of department cannot stop the progress of the candidate, we have said the candidate should report to the faculty postgraduate committee, who in a way will also link up with the School of Graduate Studies, or the candidate can write directly to the School of Graduate Studies. When such letters or issues come up, we are all colleagues. So we look at it dispassionately and discuss it. And then at the end, from a professional perspective, we change the supervisors for the candidates. Following Regulation 17.7 above, it is the duty of the student to alert the Dean, School of Graduate Studies, directly in writing, if they are not assigned a supervisor for a period of 1 semester or after completion of prerequisite courses and advancing the candidates. This point is very important. There have been a lot of situations where students in the end fill forms to the School of Graduate Studies saying that they are requesting for extension, saying that they are requesting for waiver. But the regulation is clear that if for any reason you are not supervised, the student is expected to write straight to the Dean, School of Graduate Studies. And once the letter comes, the School of Graduate Studies will link up with the faculty and the department and arrange to appoint a supervisor for the candidate immediately. Surprisingly, this has not been the case. The students wait about 2 or 3 years before they write. So I think now that these regulations are now being made, and I believe the difficulty is that I think our postgraduate students do not have time to read the School of Graduate Studies postgraduate book. So they should take note of this. Next one, where supervisor is dissatisfied with the performance of his or her student, he or she shall make a formal report to the School of Graduate Studies Board through the departmental and faculty postgraduate committees. So if you are a supervisor and you are supervising a student and you have a case, please, and the School of Graduate Studies has a form which we all fill as a way of monitoring the progress of students. So let us not wait until the last minute. So supervisors are expected to fill this form straight to the School of Graduate Studies. And then once the form comes, we get back to the faculty and departments and we see what can be done for the students. The supervisor reserves the right to withdraw from his or her supervision of a student after compliance with Regulation 17 and above. And that is why I said, if for any reason that at a point the supervisor and the students see that the relationship had gotten so sour, and that as human beings, we cannot supervise, it doesn't mean the student should be left there. The supervisor or the supervisee should write straight to the School of Graduate Studies for a new supervisor to be appointed for the candidates. Now we move to joint responsibility of the supervisor and supervisee. I have started by saying that for me, I see supervision of thesis as guidance and teaching. And within this guidance and teaching perspective, there is mentorship and coaching. And if we see it as guidance and teaching, then the element of respect becomes crucial. Supervisor and supervisee, every supervisor and supervisee should know that we all have a right to be treated respectfully. Those of us in guidance and counseling, we say there should be absolute unconditional positive regard for the supervisor and the supervisee. And once we are conscious of this, I think the relationship can be managed. I remember when I was doing my PhD, I did a course, and I remember very well how to manage your PhD supervisor. So the supervisee has to manage the supervisor. And for this respect to be achieved, this includes the following. maintaining appointments, except in cases of extenuating circumstances. The supervisor and the supervisee need to have a schedule. And within this schedule, they indicate time of meeting, the goals of the meeting. So, and these things must be agreed between the supervisor and the supervisee. Then coming to meetings prepared on what was agreed upon prior to the appointment. We set the goal for the meeting, and it is important that the goal should be set by the supervisee and then given to the supervisor so that both the supervisor and the supervisee discuss the goal before the meeting. So the supervisee should come to the meeting prepared at what I learned in the course. And I think our noble professor, Professor Anamuah-Mensah, who is the father of all of us, we agree that every supervisor loves supervising a student who has passion, initiative, and is committed to what he or she is doing. So the supervisee should come to meetings prepared because already a goal had been spelled. And then allowing for disagreement, yes. But recognizing that it's the supervisor's responsibility to guide the direction of the research study. You see, at times, and this reminds me very well, when I was doing my PhD, I had 3 supervisors. And comments will come from this supervisor, another comment will come from another supervisor. So you pick the thing and you read, and you see disparities and differences. That is the beauty of the academia. So what actually I did, and that's why I said for me, I'm presenting this thing from a practical perspective. What I did is that when such thing cropped up, I sent email and humbly requested for a meeting. Thank God they all agreed. And I, as a supervisee, managed to meet all the supervisors. And then we will dialogue and discuss this thing. Because that is the beauty of the academia. So disagreements will come. But in the end, when they had listened to my side of the issue, and they had also discussed the issue among them, then we settle on a common path. So disagreements are part of it, but it should be managed. We should also maintain confidentiality. It's very, very important. And I have said time and again that for me, when I'm supervising students, I always come from an empathic perspective, because the supervisor is expected to provide guidance, so that the supervisor has technical know-how more than the supervisee. So you don't supervise a student or supervisee, and then you go out to say that, oh, my supervisee is like this, she's like that. Maintain confidentiality, and like I did say, let both the supervisor and the supervisee maintain unconditional positive regard. Now we move to the roles and functions of the supervisor. The supervisor, from the scratch, I did say that students have a mistake about what a thesis is, especially at the PhD level. They see it as a flawless piece of writing. So, and most of the time, students appear totally lost. So because the supervisor is expected to provide guidance and teaching, straight from the topic development, the supervisor is expected to provide guidance to the supervisee in the development of the research topic. you need to assist the supervisee to look for search engines where the supervisee can get material that relate to what he or she is doing. And then assist the supervisee to even develop an electronic bookmark and begin to save all these things there. And we are not saying that right away for the student or the supervisee, but if you do this thing, and then as you even do the supervision, you give very insightful comments that will help the supervisee see the gaps in the work in terms of the conceptual gaps, methodological gaps, and the rest. The supervisee begins to write and begins to problematize the problem properly. And then from there, you move to the proposal development. The student is expected to write a proposal. And after writing the proposal, he or she has to go and defend the proposal. And the supervisor is expected to provide that guidance with his or her technical knowledge so that the student will have the confidence to present the proposal and to help other colleagues also make input to shape the proposal. Reasonable access. The supervisor is expected to be reasonably accessible for supervisees consultation. This is also very important. In the school, at the School of Graduate Studies, when students are not able to finish the thesis, the students come and they say, "Sir, I had this difficulty. I finished the work, and for about 4 or 5 months, I have not seen my supervisor." These things can be true, but I can also say that there have been situations, and I say this from a personal perspective, where PhD students, after the thesis proposal, chose to stay back and work on the thesis. And after 2 or 3 years, you'll be there, and then they bring the work, bam, first draft. Where is this thing coming from? And they tell you, "I have been working with the co-supervisor." How come you are working with the co-supervisor for all this time? And the principal supervisor doesn't know. I'm not saying that the principal supervisor is more knowledgeable, but I think these things should never ever happen. It's teamwork. So we should all make ourselves accessible to the supervisees. And then both the principal supervisor and the co-supervisor should see each chapter of the work to the end. The timelines. The supervisor should assist the supervisee to design a study that is achievable in a reasonable period of time. And there have been a lot of cases where students come with topics, especially at the PhD level. And you read the topic and you engage the students in a discussion or a dialogue. And you see that the topic does not have any focus. It is about 10 topics in a PhD. And this is common. And it's because students initially get lost. So as supervisors, it's our duty to sit down with our students to make sure that they are able to get the topics or count the topics so that the variables are clear, where we can identify dependent variables and independent variables in the work, because we have the technical eye. Constructive and timely feedback. As supervisors, we are also expected to provide feedback to the students. And When we give constructive feedback, it helps the student to know exactly what he or she is supposed to do. Why there is the School of Graduate Studies, as of now, has even come out with a policy that every PhD student should at least try to publish at least one article from the thesis before he or she graduates. Elsewhere, and in place where some of us did our PhD, before you finish, your supervisor could even have pushed you to publish even more than 2 or 3 from your thesis work. And because of that, we should inculcate these things into our supervisees. If there are even conferences where and symposia where we think it will complement or lead to the supervisees' work, we should encourage the supervisor or the supervisee to attend. Even though we have said that a thesis is not a flawless piece of work, the thesis should meet the quality demanded for the award of a degree. And because of that, we expect the supervisor to ensure that the research study is of high quality before it is submitted. We move to roles and responsibilities of the supervisee. I did say that every supervisor enjoys supervising a student who shows passion and commitment for his work. So the supervisee should indicate by his or her actions totally that he or she is committed to the work. After all, there were a lot of topics, but once you chose that topic, it means you have interest in that topic. Otherwise, you as a supervisee would never have chosen it. So once that is of importance to you, you need to show commitment and passion to it. And once you do that, your supervisor will obviously provide the needed support. And because of that, there are situations where supervisees choose a topic. They get to the middle and they get stuck. May that not happen. We expect the supervisee to gain sufficient background and skills in the research area before initiating the study, to undertake the field work or analysis in a comprehensive and rigorous manner, and produce a manuscript that is thorough, well organized, and lucidly written. The supervisee can do all these things when, in effect, with the guidance of the supervisor, the supervisee, after selecting the topic, has had thorough reading around it in terms of the literature, resources, and his own skills in conducting the research. When these things are clear, then the supervisee can start the work without difficulty and will never get to the middle of the work and get stuck. The supervisee is expected to write and submit the research proposal. Earlier on, we said the supervisor should provide the technical knowledge for the proposal to be written. But having done that, it is the duty of the supervisee to write the proposal and to ensure that it meets the standards of the university. Communication is very, very important in supervision. Very, very important in supervision. And those of us with typology in the area of counseling, when it comes to this, we are talking about supervision. And in this discussion, I have said that for me, I see supervision as guidance and teaching. And within that spectrum also, we have coaching and mentorship. But very healthy communication is essential in the whole process. We should maintain regular contact and communicate. Both the supervisor and the supervisee should communicate very well. As counselor, we say there's something we call genuineness. We should be able to discuss the issues frankly and from a professional point of view. And because most of the time, the students appear lost in our communication, we should approach the communication from a very supportive angle so that the student will be motivated to think through and then be able to write the thesis. At the university now, we have what we call the research ethics policy and the ethical board. So at the PhD level now, students are expected to have ethical clearance. And thank God, I'm happy that most of the students are now doing this. Elsewhere, without ethical clearance, you can never even proceed with the work. And I'm happy that now most PhD students now apply for ethical clearance while they are pursuing the work. It's a factor to success in thesis and dissertation writing. In dealing with, I have said, the supervisee has to manage the supervisor. And this management is very, very important. And for this thing to happen, when we talk of management, we are saying that I see the relationship between the supervisor and the supervisee as the way I see marriage. David Crombo's. Normally, when I teach career education, I say, Crombo says we choose our career and spouses like the way we choose our wives. David Crombo's. So, as with marriage, both student and supervisor have to make an agreement to work together. The time of management or meeting deadlines and goals have to be set as a master plan. It is the responsibility of both the students and the supervisor to work it and trust each other. You are going to work with the student for at least 3 years. And as human beings, there are bound to be changes. It's never going to be smooth in all situations at all. So there is the need to manage the relationship so that in the end, both the student and the supervisor will be able to maintain the relationship to the end. I did say that the supervisor even needs to have personal information about the supervisee. Why did I say that? There could be situations where the supervisee might be facing financial problems. The supervisee might have health problems. So the idea of having personal information about the student is not based on rough therapy, but it is meant to help the supervisor assist the students, especially, for instance, those of us who had the chance to study outside, where there's the need to even access student services in terms of scholarship for funding, where there's the need for the student to be referred because of medical issue. And that is why the student has to, the lecturer has to have information about the student. Specific technical support. I did say that I see supervision in this discussion as guidance and teaching. And within this guidance and teaching perspective, is the broad are the issues of mentoring and coaching. The supervisor has the skills. So the supervisor, while supervising the supervisee, should be able to assist the student to know the type of software to use, how to use the library, how to critique literature, how to assess material, and all that. It is the duty of the supervisor to provide that to the students. It is very important to help students to have an ability to develop his or her critical thinking and discussion by providing or guiding to the high-level knowledge and specialists in the field of study. Most of all, see these 5 factors can also be reviewed as the roles of supervisor. The roles of a supervisor are professional roles, and the supervisor concurrently may act in many roles as a coach, teacher, friend, colleague, trainer, good role model, and a guide. Coaching the skills builds trust and understanding between the student and the supervisor. And the specific skills of a student should be trained by the supervisor as a specialist. Besides coaching and training, the supervisor also acts as a good role model who listens and guides the student to achieve the goal. And I spoke earlier on about communication. We need to, in our interaction with our supervisees, we need to understand what is communication. And in interacting with our supervisees, we need to bring our active listening skills to bear on what the supervisees say. The supervisee might not be able to, at times, have the confidence to say everything. But if you bring your active listening skills to bear on the discussion, you are able to ask yourself, what is it that this supervisee wants to say, but he or she is not saying? And because of that, you are able to make the communication very fruitful and very productive. It is supervision for 3 solid years. And like I did say, as human beings and as we develop relationships, it is not likely for the relationship to be smooth throughout. There can be conflict or disagreement. It is part of supervision process. And when that thing happens, it should be discussed and managed before it deteriorates. It should be discussed very well and managed before it deteriorates. So for this session, I have emphasized that for me, from a practical perspective, I see supervision as teaching, guidance, and as coaching. And it is only when we as supervisors see supervision as a high level of teaching that we can empathize and provide the needed technical support. From my experience as having supervised students and going back to my MPhil and PhD periods, see supervision as guidance and teaching, which is also supported by mentoring and coaching. And that is why I have concluded by saying that thesis supervision at the higher degree level are very different, and so are supervisors. Yes, we are different people. Some go smoothly and easily, while some may be different and break down altogether. There are limits to what the supervisor can do. It is the supervisor's responsibility to own the work. And at certain points, the supervisor has to let go hard, as it might be. Yes. It is the student's duty to own their work And when the supervisor and the supervisees have seen that, no, they cannot work, we are human beings, they should agree. And then another supervisor is appointed. The supervisor can never be a substitute for the student. Supervisors enjoy supervising students who show high sense of initiative, commitment, and passion towards their work. Such positive attitude and passion towards the work make the management of the process smooth and insightful. It is my wish that as supervisors, we approach supervision of our students from a guidance and teaching perspective to help us do supervision with empathic understanding. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Prof, for your presentation. I said earlier that today's presentation has been carefully planned. And so we have heard Prof give a lot of insights and also blending it with his experience in supervising students. And also as one in the head of the unit that is in charge of supervision and student thesis. So today, as we said and as the director said earlier, we would want to have a lot more interaction than the previous topics. So maybe Prof. Anamuah-Mensah will say something small, but if you want to contribute, just let us know so that you can be unmuted and you make your submission.
Contribution.
But please be brief because we don't have much time. So Prof, if you want to add something to what?
George, I want to thank you for your excellent presentation. It covered everything. In fact,
Prof, I'm humbled.
All the areas that I earmarked, you have covered them. The issue of supervision being a teaching and guidance, having a teaching and guidance perspective on supervision is very, very critical. You know, we don't see it that way, but you know, it is one of the highest forms. You know, how do you manage, you know, a student that has been assigned to you as a supervisor? You know, and the managing requires so many attributes of the supervisor. You know, the supervisor becomes the grandfather, the grandmother, and so on and so forth. He's everything, you know, to the student, you know, and has to care for the student in every aspect. You know, I think that is great, you know, and I think students should learn from that. But then also, you know, just want to mention the fact that there's this issue of, you know, bringing students into a collegial relationship, you know, where the student is like a young learner being, yes, and it's a young lawyer being brought into the professional, you know, association of whether he's doing something in counseling, he's doing something in science or whatever, you know, becomes a member of the, you know, how do you do that? And that's when he's encouraged to make presentations at seminars, he's encouraged to make presentations at international and other national conferences, you know, so that you learn the rubrics, you know, of becoming part of the professional group, you know, that you have aspired to become part of, you know. So that's I think it's very, 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 very important. And I think the Prof mentioned the issue of communication, which is very important. You know, open communication, frank communication, communication that has no bars attached to it. You know, so that the student is not afraid of the supervisor, because we see the supervisor as somebody who's going to help him. You know, and when Prof was talking, I had two supervisors you know, when I was doing my doctorate, you know, but my supervisors were working together also on research areas that the two of them were interested in, you know. So it's like me joining them, and sometimes, you know, they invite me to the house and we join the family to eat and do things together. So they bring you in. So gradually you become part of the family. So even when you have left and have gone home, you are part of the family. They talk to you, they send emails to you, and they'll keep you, you know, how are you doing with your work? You know, how many papers have you published so far, and so on. So encouraging you, you know. So it's like a father-son relationship. It's like a friendly relationship, friends coming together and so on. So building the collegiality, building professional development, the professional growth of the individual become very, very essential to this. And as I said, Prof has covered everything. But let me just say that there was one thing that, you know, when I went to do my PhD, they asked me to do. It's like signing an MOU, you know, with my supervisors. You know, what are your expectations? The supervisors' expectations, they write them out clearly. These are my expectations, you know, and these are your expectations. We want you to write them down. You know, you have to have, you know, an agreement on this. All of us will agree that this is what we're going to do. It may change as we go along, but initially these are the agreement that we have. You know, we will have regular meetings. What are the, you know, deadline for the meetings? Every month or every 2 months, you come and then you have a discussion, prepare, and of course you have laid down all the things you want to do. You've given timelines to them, and then so when you come to meet, you know, you come to meet on those issues that topics that you have laid out, you know. And when you come, you know, you must come prepared, not just come and then sit down. You know, you come with questions in your mind. You come with things that, you know, you don't understand very well. You know, and so you pose them, and then you're able to, you know, help, you know, focus on it. And then the supervisor will provide, you know, feedback, you know, as was said, and so on. And also, those are things that are very, very, I think, critical to a successful, you know, thesis, you know, development, you know. So once again, thanks a lot. And then I think students will have a lot of questions because they have probably experienced something, and it would be good for us to hear, you know, their experiences. You know, what were your challenges and what problems did you go through and how did you overcome those challenges? You know, that's what the open session will try to do, you know, so that we try to provide you with support on how you can go about it. Thank you very much, Anamuah.
Thank you, Prof.
Okay, thank you, Prof, for sharing a bit of your thoughts on what. Wait for other experienced senior members to add what they want to add. Prof, there's this concern from one Bishanu who says that, good morning, Prof, and thanks for sharing these experiences. Please, may I find out if the Viva is part of the supervision process? Kindly throw some light on this.
Oh, yeah, okay. Now we just say that, yes, you know, in fact,
yes.
You have to see the student from the beginning. When he comes there, he doesn't have anything clear in the mind or have something which is not really clear, you know, to the time that he leaves the system. And even when he leaves the system, he's still your student, you know, whom you have to help in, because what you are doing is you are bringing a new person into the fold of the professions. No, you bring in somebody who doesn't have, you know, what it takes to be part of, you know, the group. No, then bring them into the group and then helping him to grow. No, So I think that it's a very important. In fact, you need to let him even present the thing to you or to a group where you are there before you can even go to meet the external a group, for this particular aspect of the thesis. Yes, George. Yeah.
Yes, thank you, Prof. To add to what our father has said, now at University of Education, Winneba, we have separate marks for the Viva. Previously, we didn't have it. And the idea is that if you say you are supervising the student, this is somebody you are training to develop a certain skill to join people who can also supervise thesis. So at the end of the whole exercise, that person you are trying to mold or mentor has the skills. So before even the student comes to the Viva, there is the need for the supervisor and the supervisee to meet for the supervisee to present the slides for the Viva. So for me, I see it as an integral part of the entire supervision process. Elsewhere, where some of us trained, the candidate even is allowed to have a say about the external assessor. Over here, we don't have that. But the supervisors at least have a say in selecting the external assessors. Why do I say this? They propose the external assessors from the departments to the faculties to the graduate school. So in a nutshell, that thesis, the oral Viva, that Viva voce is also an integral part of the supervision. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Prof, for your response. I think, Prof, I said that I don't initially indicated that you want to make a contribution. So, Prof, I said that if you are ready, we want to hear from you.
Yeah,
okay.
Thank you very much, Prof. Anamuah-Mensah, good morning.
Good morning. It's been a long time.
Yeah, thank you, sir. George, today you've made my day.
George,
yes.
Thank you, Amanase.
Yes, I had some issues, so I even called, Dr. Tamanja, I want to speak it. But it looks like you've said it all. And I think it was a beautiful presentation. But there is one thing I also want to say. As supervisors, we supervise students from master's degree. Even in fact, in my department, we also even do project work, MPhil, MEd, and then PhD. So you realize that we are very tight in terms of supervision. At the same time, we do other things. And sometimes I get worried when I'm with students, and sometimes I used to ask them, so how's your way going? Not only in my department, but all over the university. And sometimes I hear things like, oh, I'm on it, but my supervisor says that I should write all the chapters and submit. And that's where my worry comes from. Yes. And this is going on. So we need to be very careful. I know that we are very busy, so many things, but like Prof. Anamuah-Mensah said, and George also said it, we should see the students as our siblings. In fact, I always say that a graduate student is a colleague lecturer.
Yes.
So we need to give them constant guidance. Because, George, you said several times that supervision is just about guidance and teaching. And how can you guide somebody and see the person once or twice in a whole lifetime? So please, I'm just begging my colleagues. We are very busy, but we need to ensure that we constantly are in touch with the students about their work. You don't have to wait till the 5th chapter before you can make a comment. And we also learn, we teach them. In fact, I teach my students more often on the thesis than even the classroom, because that's why you get him one-on-one because of our large numbers these days. So please, let's have the passion of teaching. Let me give you an example. I have 2 students from the maths department, Nana Kosia, from level 100, and now she's a PhD person, a senior lecturer, and same to Dr. Lee.
That's excellent.
Yes, but because of my relationship with them, we are like friends and family now. And if sometimes when you're in class, they will go and stand in for you. So that passion of making sure that that student you are supposed is your friend, like Prof. Anamuah was saying, you go to his home, and it's very, very important. And let us continuously guide him. George, the one thing also you said about my last comment on the topics. Sometimes students will even call you on the phone, or they will send you text messages. Say, I have these topics. Which one should I choose? For me, it is very wrong. And we should not entertain that.
It's wrong.
Because every topic is good, every topic is bad. It depends on the way you go about it. Because the same topic, you may choose a different design for it, and someone else, the same topic, can also write something about it. So the best thing to do is like Professor Kankam said, let them show them the literature. They should go and read about it, put something down on paper, so that we can enter their minds on the paper and then advise them. But not that the second topic is okay, but it is very, very dangerous, and we should not do that. Thank you very much, and I think that I've enjoyed your presentation. Thank you, Dr. Tamanja.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome, sir.
Okay, great. Well, thank you so much for your contribution.
Thank you. Welcome, sir.
So we still are waiting for other suggestions, contributions. And the students, please, if you want to say something, you can let us know so I can unmute you and you will make a contribution. You can share your experience as well. Although you are a student and you are beginning, you do have some experiences that you can share. And some of you are the tail end of your work, whilst others are beginning. And there's one on the screen. It says that, this is from Lydia. Thank you, Prof. Please, can supervisors help students in framing their topics? I think Professor Asedu has even answered it.
Yes, that is the duty of the supervisor.
Yes, there's good
the
morning.
Supervisor is expected to. The supervisor is expected to help the student frame the topic so that the variables stand out clearly. Yes.
Okay, so another person is asking, good morning and thanks to the organizers and humble professors. Please, I kindly want to know the duration it takes a thesis work to be vetted by the external and internal examiner. Also, what do you do as a student if you have submitted your work for external vetting and you have heard nothing about it for about 5 to 6 months? What should I do now? But I think that the student doesn't send the work for external supervision. It is not the work of the student to send the work. So, Prof, maybe you can help the person out.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Tamanja. The thesis, all theses are sent by the School of Graduate Studies to external assessors. So it is not the student who sends the thesis. And to facilitate the process, we have even what we call early bird. So when the thesis is sent, we indicate that if the external assessor can supervise the thesis within 1 month, and that's an early bird, between 1 week to 1 month, that's an early bird. So we give them time, and we may follow up several times. Unfortunately, at times, the thesis delay because the external assessors also, like what we have here, a lot of them do teaching and do other assignments. So what the School of Graduate Studies does, which has now helped, is that we get in touch with them constantly. And there have been situations where we see that the student assessor is delaying the case unduly. We ask the student to resubmit, and we send the thesis to another supervisor. And that is why the graduation numbers have now increased. So we get in short, we give them time limits, and we have what we even call early bird, which what that thing means is that if you're able to do it fast within 3 weeks and 1 month, you get extra pay. And the university has a policy like that.
Okay, thank you, Prof. This is from Clemens Damois. I really appreciate this presentation. I am a UW MBA student. I am seriously depressed and confused because till now, my supervisor has not been able to give ample time for discussion, and he's always busy, and I am finding it difficult. Please, what should I do?
The candidate should report this into the faculty postgraduate committee. But if the supervisor is the HOD, the candidate should write directly to the School of Graduate Studies, and we will address the issue for him or her.
Yeah, I think that's the way to go. But then we need to ask the student, the candidate, whether he presented everything to the supervisor, that all the chapters to the supervisor, or he presented chapter 1 and was approved, chapter 2 was approved, chapter 3 was approved, and so on and so forth. No, or just chapter 1 and he's not approving it. No, and so on. So it's not clearly clear, what the situation actually is, because if you present the whole completed thesis to the person, when he hasn't seen the chapters involved, sometimes it throws some supervisors off. That, what is this guy doing, and so on. But unless you have an empathic relationship with the person, you may even forget about the person and so on, and frustrate him, as he was saying. But I think the building of this relationship is very, very critical, because in that case, you can even, the supervisor can tell the person, you should present the thing, one chapter at a time, so that we can discuss it and ensure that you have completed it before you move to the next one. So that when you present everything together, it's a matter of just making sure that the alignments are okay, and then there's no misconceptions occurring here and there and so on. So that at the end of it, he will not waste too much time on it, for you. So okay. I think we need clarification on that.
All right, Samson, your hand is up, so you can unmute yourself and ask your question. Samson,
yes, thank you very much.
Okay.
Please, I want to appreciate. Yes, please, Samson Sanangbedema. Please, thank you very much, and I want to appreciate the presentation by Prof. And all that he said concerning the supervisors, I want to actually thank my supervisors for everything. They actually took me as a son in my PhD work, and I'm still on it. Any delay in the work is my own doing. My main issue is when he spoke about publication. When he spoke about publication, how they are supposed to help PhD candidates to actually do some publication even long before they complete their work. I would like him to actually speak more on that. How will we be helped to actually do some publications from our thesis work? Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Hello? Hello, yes, can you hear me? Yes, I did say that.
Yes,
yes,
please.
Now,
you, Prof.
Yes, I did say that now, if you read the graduate school booklet, we have indicated that the student should try to publish at least an article from his work. And the whole thing is a learning process. You are writing the thesis under the guidance of your supervisor. So if from chapter 1 to the end, if you look at the work well, you should be able to get between 2 to even 3 articles from it. And then when you have decided that you want to publish, your supervisor needs to direct you to that where you want to publish, because every article has its own house style. Is that okay? Over here, we use the APA format and the rest. But your supervisor, if you want to publish in this journal, your supervisor needs to introduce you to that journal so that you become familiar with the house style of that journal. And then, because you are writing, or you have even written and you want to take something out of it, you do it, and because he has the technical eye and he is conversant with the house style of that journal, he needs to guide you. I think Prof. Anamuah-Mensah, our father, will add to it.
Yeah.
Prof.
Thank you very much.
Could you please add? Yes.
Yes. I'll give my own example. When I was somewhere along my developing my thesis, I had done the literature review, I've done the analytical things that need to be done. And then I read in a journal, a very high repute journal, someone who had written an article using, the methodology and analytical tools that I was using, and that was part analysis. So what I did was I told my supervisor, the article is wrong. The people didn't look at it well. He said, how do you know? I said, this is how, going to do part analysis. These are the assumptions we should have. This is how we conduct it, and so on and so forth. I said, oh, Jophus, write to the editors and tell them. So I wrote a nice piece and sent it to the editors. And the editors sent it to the author. And then the author, after going through it, said, yes, he agrees with me that, he didn't do the right things and so on and so forth. So he will correct it. I mean, so working with your, apart from that, I also published with them, on some aspect of the thesis, they encourage you, through that. Even your literature review could be a publication, and because you may have 2, 3, 4, research questions, you may even have, 3 papers coming out of it. You've done already the literature, so it's there, your conceptual framework is there. So all that you do is, as was said, look at the house style of that particular publication journal that you want to publish in, and then, mold it according to, if that's what you want, that's the place you want to publish, mold it in that regard, So your supervisors are really there to provide you with all the support that you need, encouraging you, because they are like holding your hands to gradually climb a mountain, So they are at the top of there and holding your hand, pulling you one step at a time until you also reach there, and you also become a supervisor, becomes a lecturer or whatever, in the area. So it's very important. And there's even one private university in Ghana, AIT, they require, and they are linked with Malaysia Open University. They require you have 7 publications for your PhD. No, you must have 7 publications related to your PhD. And if you don't have it, they won't pass you. No. So it's just taking the people, learning the rubrics and going through the system. Gradually, you'll be on your own, and you will not, be publishing with your supervisor. You'll be publishing with your colleagues or somebody else, or yourself alone. No. So I think that this is very important. You need, that's part of that professionalism, professional support to enable you to also become like your supervisor.
Thank you, Prof. Please, I want to find out before. You can check from our previous presentation, develop the questionnaire.
Oh.
So if there are some topics that this topic, I must recommend the Faculty of Educational Studies, especially the...
Hello, Dr. Tamanja. We can hear you.
Okay.
We can hear you. Carry on.
Okay, I can hear you now. Yes. Okay, so this is from Osei. It says, good morning, Doc. I would like to thank the organizers of this program, and particularly the topic, this topic. I must recommend the Faculty of Educational Studies, especially the Department of Early Childhood Education, for their immense support and contribution in supervising our work during our MPhil program in the 2017-2018 academic year, which has warranted most of our colleagues full completion of the program and graduated well. To add to this, we would also like to appreciate our supervisors, because most of us have been able to do publication from our thesis with our supervisors under effective guidance. So, Prof, at least there are some good stories to hear and to share. Some supervisors are supporting their students to complete in good time and also to publish.
That's good.
That's good.
So, okay, so Prof. Aswa, you can unmute yourself and make your contribution. Prof. Aswa.
Yeah, thank you so much, Dr. Tamanja. Thank you so much. And I also want to thank the presenters, Prof. Anamuah-Mensah and Prof. George Kankam, for doing a wonderful job on the topic. I also want to congratulate Prof. Eduardo for his contribution. What I would say is that wisdom, they say, is like a baobab tree that no single individual can embrace. What it means is that no one can boast of having it all in terms of knowledge. There are always some deficiencies, and here I'm referring to supervisors. Sometimes we may be deficient in some areas, but we shouldn't be so big, to use the word, that if you have a colleague who is very knowledgeable in an area, we don't approach. We are talking about collegiality here, and it's the same enterprise that we are building. And so when we feel deficient in an area, we should be free to approach somebody who will be willing to assist. After all, it's the student's work that is at stake. If we were doing a study, say, qualitative, and you feel that you are not very knowledgeable, you may be free to contact a colleague who is knowledgeable in that area for assistance, the same as the quantitative. If we do it that way, then the student's work is actually enhanced and assisted in an appropriate way. My advice to the supervisees is that they also need to be very, very obedient. It's a learning process. A supervisee who is very obedient is loved by the supervisor. Also, supervisees need to be very submissive. Supervisees should be willing to learn new things. Once they do that, the collaboration, the friendship that exists between the supervisee and the supervisor will go a long way. I want to thank you so much, Doc.
Thank you. Thank you for your contribution.
Prof, thank you so much. There is this related to what you have just said from Mohammed Adam. He says, thanks very much for this useful presentation. It has indeed set the record straight. One other thing I want to suggest to some of our supervisors is that they should not see their supervisees as people who don't know anything. So they should not see their supervisees as people who don't know anything, or sometimes treated as if the supervisees are so stupid and can't do anything good.
Oh. why these strong words?
A strong word too.
Why these strong words? The words are too strong.
It's too strong.
Why these too strong words?
Mohammed, we appreciate your concern.
I'm from his experience. No.
Yeah. Yes, maybe he's speaking from a bitter experience.
That's unfortunate.
That's unfortunate, yes. You may have one or two.
That's unfortunate. Yes.
So, Mohammed, you may have a bitter experience, but we think that your expressions are too harsh.
Yes.
Nevertheless, you can always contact the School of Graduate Studies for support if you think that it's getting out of hand.
Or head of department is there.
Yes. So, Ahmed, get back to your head of department and complain. If on the other hand, he is a supervisor, then write directly to the School of Graduate Studies and we'll assist.
Yeah. That relationship is very important, building a good relationship. You know, I mean,
relationship, yes.
Yes, you know, it's very, very
good and healthy relationship, yes.
You don't see the person before you as your own, then really you treat the person as something else. No, you bring in something, oh, I don't have time for you, and so on. And so it can happen. But we as the supervisors, we also need to work hard to have a different perspective on the students that come assigned to us, or we accept as supervisees. And so we need to build a passion, for them, and let them know that, yes, you've come into this is a serious business, but we need to work together, That's why I like the issue of, we sign a contract, it's a contract between you and me, that these are the things you will do, these are the things I will do, If for any reason you cannot do yours at any point in time, you let me know, way ahead, so that we can then sit together and see when we can do that, But if you don't do that, then you break the contract, and therefore, you create a problem where the supervisor cannot, continue to work with you. Let's build a relationship. Let's build a very good relationship between ourselves and then our mentees, because we are mentoring them.
Okay, so it appears the concerns are no longer coming. So, Prof, Director, the president of GRASAD said she wants to say a word in today's presentation. Okay. As today also happens to be the last presentation of the session. So I would want to invite, it seems there's a hand. Okay, it seems there's a hand. Ose, your hand is up. Ose, can you unmute yourself and then share what you want to? Hello, Ose.
Good morning. Yes, sir. Please, can I be heard?
Good morning.
Good morning, professors.
Yes,
Good morning, professors. Good morning, our lecturers and then also our colleagues. I would like to ask a question. My question is that should a supervisor tell a student or a supervisee that he or she is not interested in the topic that the supervisee wants to work on? And then to that extent, again, should a supervisor also ask a supervisee to change topic which might interest him, the supervisor, but not the supervisee? That's my question.
That's a very good question.
That's a good question.
Thank you.
I want to say a little so that Prof. Anamuah-Mensah will cap it. In the supervisor relationship, elsewhere, before even someone decides to supervise, that person must have interest in the topic. The person's theoretical framework and the discipline should be this, or the topic you have chosen. If the person's theoretical framework and the discipline are not in line with the topic you have chosen, that supervisor might decline to supervise you. So elsewhere, that is what happens. In our system here, there have been situations where students choose topics. And I'm excited about the comment that Professor Asua made. You know, in our system, we have, in terms of numbers, even though we manage to supervise, we have limited supervisors. That is why how come a supervisor can now even have about 6 or 7 PhD students. I'm saying this because from my personal perspective. Elsewhere, that is not the case. So if a student brings a topic and you think the topic is not in line with your theoretical framework and your discipline, the best thing to do is to have a look at it and arrange to talk to your colleague to come on board. I will want our father, Prof. Anamuah-Mensah, to take over. Prof,
yeah,
please.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Let us benefit from you are the fountain. You are a fountain of knowledge.
No, yeah, I mean, before a student is assigned, I believe that the student writes a concept paper on what he wants to do. I'm coming to do a PhD. This is how I see what I want to do, the topic and so on. So writes a concept paper. This goes to the department. The department looks at it and locates a particular person with similar or closely similar interest or research area, and then discuss with him, will you want to supervise this person? He's working in this area, read the paper and so on and so on. If you're interested in it, then the person will be assigned to you. If not, you have to go to another person and so on and so forth. If you do this, because the student, whatever the student has selected is probably what he or she is interested in. So if you sway him from that topic to another topic, which he has no interest in it, he will not commit himself or herself to the completion of the thesis. He reach somewhere and then he has a problem, and then so she will be doing it mechanically, not from inside the heart. This requires the commitment that you have to have for completing your thesis. Is so huge that the student, I mean, if I take myself, for my work, I was sleeping and doing everything, whatever I'm doing, even when my sleep, I'm working, I'm still thinking about my work. So I dream about my work, how I could change it and so on and so forth. you know, so everything, your whole life changes.
Yes.
You know, you're so much committed to it. So if you are given something that you are not interested in, you know, you find that you are struggling. You'll be struggling with it, you know, even though your supervisor may be trying to help you, but you are struggling. This is not what I want to do. I want to do something else, you know. And I think this is very important, you know, that we take the interests of the student into heart. If he has to come and join maybe a research that is going on in the department, you know, probably, you know, some of the publications or some of the write-ups, you know, may be given to the person. Yes, you've written this, you've sent this paper. Can you read this also and see if there was anything you can imagine from this, you know, and then connect it with your pen, you know. So then you can come and join into and you excite the person in the departmental or individual research area, you know, that is ongoing, you know, because maybe there's certain aspects of it can be taken by the student, you know. I've seen that in Sweden where, you know, there's one supervisor, he had almost, I think about 10 students he was supervising, but he had a system, you know, that he was using, you know, which enables students to share ideas whilst he's there. You know, they do their presentation, they get criticism from their own students and then shape it and so on. And he's there to correct them and so on. You know, but they were all working within the same research, you know, area, you know, but aspects of that research area have been taken by these students, you know. So he was there just, you know, but encouraging the students to all meet at certain times and then present, and then you get, you know, inputs from your colleagues, and you get inputs from him also, and then another person will present, and so on and so forth. You know, so it's the way we probably, you know, do it. You know, that really creates may create a problem for the students that Doreen is alluding to. You know, I think we need to ensure that whatever the student is doing, he or she is interested in it. You know, if he's not interested, forget it. You know, we'll be thinking about something else instead of the thesis. You know. So yeah, I think that's what I would say about this. You know, maybe some of the
okay. So Prof, Prof, our time is almost up.
Oh, okay.
Okay. And then the Grasa president says that she wants to give the vote of thanks. So yes, if you can conclude, if you have some concluding statement or comment that you want to make, you can do so that she will give the vote of thanks.
No, I just want to say that just thanking the students for being part of this unique seminars. We hope to continue with it, but we hope that we'll be able to bring in more of our supervisors to also make presentations and so on, you know, so that in the end, it's a whole university affair. It's not just one group of people doing it, but it's a whole university affair, and it will help us all, you know, in developing our students. So students, take note of all these things. They are they have been put on YouTube, and then you can, you know, access them and then you utilize them for your work. Thank you very much. Maybe Professor Kankam may want to say something short also.
Thank you, Prof. I'm also excited and very grateful to IERIS for this collaboration. In fact, these sessions, I think, have been very insightful and have benefited our graduate students. We look forward to having more of these and more of the teaching of research methods jointly with IERIS in the years ahead. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Prof, for your concluding statements. But before the GRASA president comes, we want to say that we have shared the link to our questionnaire. So please log and then give us your opinions. Assess us the way you think reflects how you have gone through and felt about the program. And then suggest ways by which you can improve upon it, because you are thinking of the next phase. We are interested in the topics that we should consider for the next phase, the mode of delivery, and the timing. Whatever you think that we can do to improve on this particular program, please let us know from you and circulate it amongst yourself. In fact, it's not only limited to UW students or graduate students. We know many of you are joining from outside UW. So wherever you are, which university you are joining from, let us know so we can plan the next phase that will suit everybody. So now I welcome the president of GRASA. She also happens to be the national president of GRASA. So Hartwell, please, can you give us a vote of thanks so that we end this session and plan for the next one in the future? Hello?
Oh.
Is he lost or it's a network problem?
Oh, I'm here. Good morning.
Okay.
I was not unmuted.
Okay, sorry.
Thank you, Prof, for the opportunity. I want to, on behalf of my executive committee and then the entire graduate students of UW, thank IERIS, Prof. Anamuah-Mensah, Prof. Tamanja, and all the facilitators for this golden opportunity that they gave us. In fact, the outbreak of COVID-19 actually made most of us confused about how we can be in tune with research methods. But the introduction of this series have actually helped us to be in tune and then not to forget what we have learned in the class, and even we learned more in addition. I want to sincerely thank everybody, and it looks like this is how the world is now moving. So I also want to encourage my colleague students to also take this seminar seriously and take part in it. It is actually coming to take over from the face-to-face teaching that we have, and we should all learn to be abreast with it and take part in it for our own good. So once again, Professor Anamuah-Mensah, Dr. Tamanja, and all the presenters, Professor Kankam, thank you all. We are very grateful for the service you have given us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you also for thanking us.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much. Have a nice day. I'll be expecting your response on the questionnaire. So thank you very much too. Have a nice day.
Okay. Enjoy yourselves.